Hello all YouTubers, I'm the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning back into the Tropical Storm Nana coverage for September 2nd, 2020. Before I get on with today's video, however, if you guys want to stay up to date with the latest forecast and best forecast from the Weather Dude, then please, every single one of you that is not subscribed, please click the subscribe and the ring and the notification bell so you guys stay up to date with the latest The Weather Dude content. And also, please watch the whole video. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for 1,000 subscribers. It really does mean a lot to me. And this is taking the next step towards monetization, so please watch the whole video. It really does help out my channel a lot. And also, please give this video a like and share this with your friends. Thank you. Now let's get on with today's video. Now for today's video, we have to answer the big question. Will a tropical storm Nana become a hurricane before making landfall in Belize in Central America? Now, as of 5:55 p.m., the poll that I asked you guys one day ago, we have 26 votes. Today, guys, not too late if you guys want to go vote, but 26 votes right now, and most of you guys said that Nana will become a low-end Category 1 hurricane with 75 to 80 mile-an-hour winds within that sort of range. 73% of you said that. 19% of you said a high-end tropical storm, maybe 60, 65, 70 mile-an-hour winds, which it has just become, I believe, a high-end tropical storm. And then 8% of you said a mid-grade tropical storm with like winds less than 60, maybe around 50 miles per hour. Now, some of you may have lost confidence in Tropical Storm Nana becoming a hurricane, but I wouldn't lose that confidence yet because it still has a shot. Why? Well, the Northern Caribbean, there's some very warm water. And also for Belize, we still do have hurricane warnings up for you guys. All right. And even though it says there's a bunch of S's on here, meaning tropical storm, I'll take a better in-depth look and hope to show you guys better. But for the coast of Honduras, we have tropical storm watches. We even have tropical storm warnings going to near Mexico, extending into Mexico, and some hurricane watches as well. Now for the northeastern coast of Guatemala, we have tropical storm and hurricane warnings. So currently, Nana has sustained winds of 60 miles an hour. It is moving west at 15 miles per hour. And maybe some of what might be able to call the DNA, or maybe part of the storm, could be transferred into the Pacific Ocean, but that wouldn't be until Friday or Saturday. Now, the tropical storm force winds are on that northeast and northern side. All right, so this is looking not too bad. I'll be showing you satellite imagery as well. Now, those tropical storm force wind probabilities. Hurricane force winds we're not quite too sure about, but the tropical storm force wind probabilities are going to be pretty high, and they're above for Belize, especially central Belize. All right, they're above 70%. All right, and even as you get closer to the coastline, the eastern shore of Belize, maybe 80 or 90% chance to see winds of 40 miles an hour or greater. When will these winds be arriving? The earliest reasonable arrival time will be very late Wednesday evening, but probably Wednesday overnight. Right? Today is Tuesday, right? No, today is Wednesday. Oh, okay, today is Wednesday. So probably, I would say overnight tonight, expect to see those tropical storm force winds arrive. The most likely arrival time, it says 2 a.m., but you always want to look at that earliest reasonable time because that's when you know you should be prepared by then. But notice one thing. Notice how the chances, see how the chances we go from like a lime green to like a medium green, but notice how there's a little bit of lime green off the coast in the Pacific Ocean, off the western shore of Mexico there. That means that the storm could possibly re-strengthen a little bit in the Pacific Ocean, but we're not quite too certain about that. So tropical storm force winds haven't impacted land yet since its formed. They say just south of Jamaica, although Jamaica probably saw some gusty winds, but they haven't gotten the tropical storm force, at least according to this map here. So we have yet to see the storm, the 40 mile per hour winds impact land, and it probably will, all right, as we head through the next few hours. Now, we're going to take a better in-depth look here. So here in this tealish color for future reference is where a tropical storm force winds go, winds of 39 miles per hour plus. But inside that smaller area, that's where the winds of 58 miles per hour plus are sitting. All right, so the wind field isn't massive, but all right, it's enough that it could do a good deal of damage. Now, it's going to move through the Gulf of Honduras, and now we're predicting by 2 a.m. on the 3rd of September, so 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. So, again, overnight tonight, we'll probably start to see those winds arrive. Winds will be at 70 miles per hour, right, which is just shy of a hurricane, but wind gusts will definitely be well into Category 1 hurricane force. But also notice this, 70 mile per hour winds right here, but the question is, can it get its act together right before it makes landfall? A projected landfall right now is Strain Creek. All right, so it's just south of Belize. Now, Belize City itself, I think the south side of Belize City, you guys are under hurricane warnings, but the north side of Belize City is under hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings. So right now, projected landfall is in the southern part of, or Stan Creek, sorry. So southern part of Stan Creek, and then moving through Cayo, I believe that's pronounced, and then Petén, and then moving through and Las Margaritas, and then eventually making its way towards Salina Cruz and maybe off into the Pacific Ocean. All right, but again, we do have tropical storm watches well to the south, and even for some of the islands here, we do have tropical storm warnings. So the question is, 70-mile-per-hour winds here, but can do some last-minute strengthening because since it's the Gulf of Honduras is actually a pretty warm, plentiful source of water as it starts to make its way in there. So in between 2 a.m. and its landfall point, a couple hours after 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe we could see a brief strengthening of the hurricane. We'll have to see. All right. So again, projected landfall right now is Stan Creek, but notice anywhere from Belmopan all the way down through, say, Punta Gorda town, you guys are all in the cone, anywhere in between there. So Cayo, Stan Creek, Toledo, Dolores, all places are in that cone, including Belize and Belize, actually south of Belize City. The southern part of the Belize region is in the cone. But like I said, we can see effects extend well outside the cone. Like, look at this. Well into the north here. I mean, we're talking about tropical storm warnings that go all the way into Mexico here that are well outside the cone. So like I said, impacts will be far outside of that cone. Now, key messages. Nana could bring some hurricane conditions, some dangerous surge. We haven't got a value on the surge yet, but expect anywhere from 3 to 6 feet because that's typical for a Category 1 hurricane. Hurricane warnings are in effect. Tropical storm conditions, okay, are expected in the warned areas. In Belize, the Bay Islands, Guatemala, and the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico by tonight. We could even see 8 to 12 inches of rainfall, especially considering the geography there. You can see close to a foot of rainfall. Right? We can see Belize, Guatemala, again, Mexican, Yucatan Peninsula. You can see some of the higher rainfall totals, again, depending on your geography. Now let's take a look at that satellite imagery just to show you guys why we're worried about this. There has actually been a little bit of, that's actually surprising. The storm, notice how it sinks to the south, but in the last frame, it actually made a little bounce back north. But it looks like it's been sinking to the south, and I think there's been some northeasterly shear maybe that's been knocking this, because that's why the storm all of a sudden just, notice how the convective activity in the last few frames just plunged southwest. All right, even though the storm center isn't moving southwest, like I said, the wind shear just moves the convective activity. The low center gets steered by the 500 millibar heights. But notice the outflow and some of the bands that are already reaching into Central America and even Mexico. All right, but we got that center amid the convection. Like I said, it's not too organized. There's a chance it could form an eye and become a hurricane before landfall in Belize. So if you do live in Belize, definitely, I hope you're prepared now because expect conditions to start going downhill in a few hours. Now, the aircraft reconnaissance, their latest mission, their 5th mission, they finished. The 6th mission, they just left Louisiana recently. I will check at the end of the video for you guys, but I believe they're still en route, or maybe they just now entered a storm. But as of the 5th mission here, they have found some winds of around 50 knots. You'll see another chart as well, which means 60-mile-per-hour winds in translation, and 999 millibars of pressure. But take a look at this. This is the SFMR wind speed and rainfall rates. You can see rainfall rates are just ridiculous. I mean, 70 millimeters of rain per hour. But look at the surface winds, just as high. We're talking about anywhere closer to 60 knots. So maybe they found some 65-mile-per-hour winds. Like I said, that could be some outlier data as well. And notice the MSLP plunge. All right, the data for the MSLP hasn't been completed. I'm sure the pressure is actually just below 1,000 millibars. But we're finding some pretty impressive data here in Tropical Storm Nana. And just so you guys know, by the way, 70 millimeters of rain per hour is like almost anywhere from 2.5 to 3 inches of rainfall per hour. So in the most intense area of convection, it's probably where they found rainfall rates close to 3 inches per hour, and that is just absolutely stunning, especially for a tropical system. They ran themselves out as much as it is. Now here's Nana again, wind 60 miles an hour, 999 millibars of pressure. Range of circulation is 100 nautical miles, and the maximum wind is 10 nautical miles. So here's the surface low, current spot here, sitting at about 85 degrees west and 17 degrees north. All right, just about getting ready, if not already entering the Gulf of Honduras. And here's some of the model track guidance. All right, again, all the models project a Belize landfall, whether it's a very strong tropical storm, maybe a weaker hurricane, moving through Central America and then dropping, and then start dropping southwestward. Remember, this is the track of the center. The convection could be anywhere outside of the center, but this is the center track. So again, moving through Belize and Central America, dropping into the Pacific. And the models do keep it alive to some degree because they do extend the track through the Pacific and then closer to Cabo San Lucas. So that'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So here's some of the GEFS model tracks. Again, they bring it a tad bit farther south maybe. All right, because if we go back to the NHC map, let me find, I think it's this one right here. So they have it making landfall against Stan Creek, but some of the GEFS model tracks kind of have it going maybe more towards Toledo, maybe just south of there. All right, but still a good landfall, intense landfall, maybe, again, strong tropical storm, weak Category 1 hurricane, dropping into the Pacific, and then they just have it meandering around, maybe doing some brief re-strengthening. But like I said, I like to look at these models for the track, not necessarily the strength, because sometimes the strength could be a little off with these ensembles, because there's so many, different opinions getting combined. But here's some of the GEFS parallel model tracks, and they also bring a southern Belize or around Stan Creek or Toledo landfall. But some of the models on this do bring the pressure closer to 990 millibars to make it a little bit stronger. But then they kind of have it like a few models split it to the Pacific. Other models go towards the Bay of Campeche into the southwestern Gulf. So that'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But most likely, this will drop west-southwest into the Pacific Ocean eventually. Whatever happens, whatever's left of this, if it moves over a mountain, it's going to weaken a lot faster. So here's some of the model intensity guidance. One model, the ship model. Whew, it's always that model, huh? Category 3 hurricane. I don't think so. You guys are going to be the one outlier. So here's the thing. This model can't be right. I know every model does count. I know that, all models have their own different opinions. But there is something a little bit wrong because it has to make landfall at some point, right? We know it's going to make landfall, whether it's in Belize, Toledo, or Stan Creek. But they never have a weakening period. All right, when a tropical system moves over land, it pretty much cannot strengthen. If it's lucky, it may be able to maintain its strength a little bit, but most likely when it hits land, 96% of the time, it is going to weaken steadily. So why they have a steady, maybe this isn't updated, maybe the ship model needs to update themselves, maybe. But again, a lot of the models do make this really not close to a Category 1 hurricane. Matter of fact, they actually do weaken it to a tropical storm. Then landfall becomes a tropical depression, and then whatever's left of it drops into the Pacific Ocean. So they think this is the strongest this is going to get, and then might even weaken from there. Now here's the HWRF model, and actually we'll check for an update because no, there's still no 12's the update because you'll be seeing like the wind speeds might act a little bit weird, but some models don't really have the strengthening anymore. All right, and I don't blame them sometimes because this storm hasn't been strengthening all that fast to begin with. But look at some of the rainfall rates here. We're talking about 55, 60 millimeter rainfall rates per hour, so maybe a couple inches of rain per hour. Look at this heavy band that makes its way into Belize. All right, now this is 8 p.m. tonight, and look at this. It really kind of backtracks. It kind of briefly stalls. All right, they're actually not predicting a landfall literally until 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning, with a pretty good development. There is some weaker rain. There's not as much rainfall in that center point, but I wouldn't call it a fully developed eye. And we do have some very heavy precipitation around it and some banding. The storm definitely looks a lot more compact. It looks more organized. That's its strongest point, and then it drops in the Pacific. Like I said, whatever's left of it, which still 1,007 millibars of pressure. We still got some heavy rainfall rates embedded within the storm with a couple inches per hour potentially. Now, cyclonic vorticity signatures. Again, there's going to be that one steady band that probably comes through sometime soon, and then the main storm comes in right through southern Belize, right through Toledo and Stan Creek, all right, dropping towards the west-southwest, maybe more of a southwesterly motion. And once it comes to the Pacific, it might still have some left of it. It's very scattered out energy, but it may still have something left, and it may have some power, some goodwill, some power to maybe hold its strength a little bit. Now, the HWRF model doesn't really make it stronger than 55 knots. They have it making 55 knots, which is about 65 miles per hour approximately. Then making landfall with about 55 knots of wind, which you need 64 for a hurricane, or Category 1 hurricane. Then it drops in the Pacific, but notice some very, very patchy areas of green. Maybe potentially a tropical storm could redevelop. But for now, we're focused on the landfall in Belize. So you guys definitely need to stay alert because the storm is coming on shore tonight. And again, Belize, Toledo, Stan Creek will probably be in the landfall zone, but Honduras, even all the way up through Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula, we have to watch for effects. This storm will have wide-reaching effects. For as small as the storm may be, we could see a pretty good wind field coming out of the storm system.